Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming to another one of our sessions for virtual USAC week. Today's session, we're going to be focusing on ways to make study abroad affordable with USAC. And I am very honored to introduce everyone to Jillian, who is an expert on all things financial aid with USAC and especially our scholarships and offerings through that. So I will turn it over to Jillian. So yeah, take it away, Jillian.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our session. Like he said, my name is Jillian Kent. I've been working with USAC for many years in all sorts of capacities, but today I'm really excited to be talking to you about ways to finance your study abroad. So my goal is to try and alleviate some concerns that students may have in the prospect of figuring out how to pay. I will say there's no easy formula. I'm not going to give you any very simple solution. Most of the things are going to require some extra time and planning, but I promise it will be worth it in the end. So let's dive in. Some of the most common questions that we receive from students: can I afford this? How much does it cost? What are some of the most affordable programs that USAC offers? Can I use financial aid? Are there scholarships available? When do I do that? When can I start working on my scholarship applications? And what are the processes for these things? So those are the main topics that we want to hit today, along with just some other ways outside of financial aid and scholarships, some out of the box, thinking outside the box strategies for not going into debt in your experience abroad. So the image that you see on the screen is you'll see some dollar amounts and program locations. So these are some of our most affordable locations, and the dollar sign you see there is not just the USAC program fee. That is what is the average cost of attendance, including the USAC program fee, housing, airfare, visa, meals, and just estimated personal expenses. So we have that information available elsewhere. You don't have to memorize it now, but just thought I'd put that there on the screen. It's a really great tool for students to compare to their estimated cost of attendance at their home university, because all universities provide that type of detail. So moving on. Chuck, did you want to give some prompts about asking questions and when the best time is for that?
Yeah, sure. So folks, you can always ask questions anytime during the presentation via the chat. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'll actually open it up so that we can chat a little bit more and do a little bit more of a facilitated Q&A.
Great, thank you. So now I'm realizing this picture is a little blurry. I didn't realize that at the beginning, but one of the best tools that USAC has put together for students is what we call our interactive budget sheet. These are available for every single program and term, because USAC's programs are not the same price. They're all priced based on how much they cost to administer. So if you want to go to Bilbao in the fall, you need to drill down all the way to the term that you're looking at going. And bringing up that. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the first two lines are going to give you the USAC program fee and the housing, which do tend to comprise of the greatest cost. The other sections on here would be a lot of the optional things that USAC offers, things like optional tours, the fee for a course like the cuisine course. So students are able to pick all of the things that they may be interested in participating in, and the costs will populate over here on the side. And then a lot of the separate from USAC things like a flight to the destination, typical range in here for how much students tend to spend on things like local transportation, getting to and from school if perhaps it requires a bus ride or a train ride each day. Meals, all of those kinds of things. We have ranges estimated in US and local currency to try and help give students an idea of what they should expect to spend. And then at the very bottom, there's a box where you can enter in money that you might be getting externally. So scholarships, savings, gifts. And so then you can kind of offset your total cost. So it's a really, really great tool, especially for students at the beginning to be looking at, to kind of have the biggest cost. And then, you know, as they're finding more ways to save money, they can start entering that and watch the how much they have to come up with go down. So one of the biggest questions, again, is about a student's home university financial aid. And, you know, for the most part, most students are able to utilize, you know, all or a significant amount of the typical financial aid from their home university, but it is obviously completely dependent on the policies at the home institution. So the best thing to do is to chat with your study abroad advisor or your financial aid office and figure out what the procedures are for getting your financial aid. So we've got a list here of questions that a student should be asking both offices, or at least one, whichever one they're working with. So what aid can transfer if they receive the Pell Grant, for example, or anything off of the FAFSA versus an institutional scholarship or grant. You know, can a student utilize an institutional scholarship while they travel abroad? You know, students may have the misconception that maybe going in the summer is a more economical option because it's a shorter duration and a smaller program fee, but a lot of times there's less financial aid available in the summer or during a winter semester. So bang for your buck is almost always fall or spring semester. But again, dependent on the university and what their policies are for transferring financial aid for study abroad. And then of course, do I have access to any additional financial aid? Some universities may have scholarship funds available specific to students going abroad as a way to encourage study abroad on their campuses. And again, as I was mentioning, students can add that once they have an idea of what financial aid they'll be able to take from their home university, they can enter it on that budget sheet to keep the plan moving forward. So another great option for students are funds that USAC has put together specific for study abroad. So the way that it works, I think it's a pretty simple process, to be honest. Students must have applied to a USAC program already. So as long as a student has applied, they don't have to have completed the application process or be accepted, but they need to at least have an application and have access to the USAC Student Gateway portal. This is where students complete their application, complete all of their pre-departure materials, and receive all of the resources that we want them to have prior to going abroad. They can submit, it's just one application. It's a series of yes and no questions where they would, you know, self-identify a variety of different categories, which I'll go into in a moment. And then 3 essay prompts. 2 of them are mandatory and 1 is optional. And, you know, we would, based on that one application, we would be qualifying students for any of the scholarships that USAC offers that they're eligible for. So they don't need to comb our website to figure out, you know, which scholarships specifically to apply for. We just ask them for one app and we take it from there. Our deadlines are firm and strict. So for summer, we are coming up on the deadline. It's this Friday at midnight, March 1st. For fall, May 1st. And for spring and January, while that application isn't out yet, it'll come out sometime this summer. The deadline for that will be October 1st. So we have, in that first section there, the USAC funded scholarships. We have regional scholarships where an amount of money is allocated for each of the regions. So we have Europe, Asia, Latin America, Middle East, Africa, and Oceania. And these are $500 scholarships, and we give out a fair amount of those. So all students are eligible at least for the regional scholarship as long as they have a 2.5 GPA. The Access, Equity, and Inclusion Scholarship, these scholarships are $2,500 to $5,000, and these are for students that are underrepresented in study abroad. And so there's a description for all of these on the web and even within the scholarship application. So students can decide at that time if they fall into any of these categories. And if they do, they would need to complete that third essay prompt. And the same is true for the first generation scholarships, the next one down. Both of those would require an additional essay. We also have funds set aside for students that are pursuing study abroad as community college students. Also for active military or being a dependent of active or retired military. And then students pursuing a science, technology, engineering, or math degree are also eligible for the USAC STEM scholarship. We also have a variety of donor-funded scholarships. So I have a selection of them listed here that are always, well, almost always program specific. And students, again, don't need to indicate their interest in these scholarships. We will automatically qualify them for consideration for each of these. And the other thing I'll say about the donor-funded scholarships is the donors do have a follow-up project. Pretty simple. It's usually just something along the lines of maybe a video once they return or during the time that they're abroad. A video or, you know, a testimonial and a couple of photos. So I think those are really nice projects for students to do too. So if you have not already, take a look at our website for scholarships. Everything that I just went through, all of those scholarships that I mentioned are listed with a description and any of the, you know, if there's a GPA requirement, things like that, it's all listed there. You don't have to memorize everything I just told you. Our deadlines are there. We have tips for essay writing. And then we have a link at the top for external scholarships. So that's my next slide here. So external scholarships, I would say, are a bit more rigorous than the USAC process and tend to have earlier deadlines. So some good advice would be to start working on external scholarships early and really get some well-written essays developed. And then you can use some of the wording from those essays in your USAC scholarship application. So national scholarships can be applied in addition to USAC scholarships, financial aid from the home university. But again, this requires a fair bit more work. You know, a lot of them will require longer essays, letters of recommendation, you almost always some sort of a academic advisor or study abroad advisor certification. But they're so anyway, earlier deadlines, award amounts vary. The Gilman Scholarship, you know, could be up to $5,000, which can have such a great impact on offsetting the costs for study abroad. So again, the USAC website has links to all of these and will help students as necessary. You know, if a lot of them will require some documentation from USAC, something like an acceptance letter, proof of insurance, things like that. And we will work with students on getting them the required materials so that they can complete those processes. And just, you know, a note on essay writing. It's always a really good idea for students to have someone who knows them well to read over the essay, because this is where students can really distinguish themselves and really give a good personal narrative. And I think sometimes we forget when we're writing about ourselves what really makes us special. So when you have somebody else who knows and loves you read it, maybe they'll think of something that you overlooked and forgot to include. But of course, going to the Career Center or, you know, having a peer who maybe doesn't know you that well, but is a good writer, those are also good ways to make sure that you are getting a really good essay written. And, you know, just like with these national scholarships, the USAC scholarships are also very competitive. So those essays really matter. So don't discount those. Take the time to write a good essay. Tell your story. So here's some examples of some of those external scholarships that we have listed on our website, but this is not the full list. There are others, but these are some of the most popular. The Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship is for students that are eligible for the Pell Grant. And again, the award goes up to $5,000. The Boren Scholarship, Freeman Asia, and the Fund for Education Abroad are also scholarships that we are seeing a lot of students receive, and they have a really high impact. So now we're going to start talking about some other outside of the typical, you know, things to do besides completing your FAFSA and applying for external scholarships and USAC scholarships. Students that are planning well in advance. I read a lot of essays that where students are saying that they have been taking a part-time job at a cafe or working all summer and putting the money aside early. It's one of the best ways to not have to take out, you know, loans. So earning and saving in advance will go a long way. You know, another idea is if you have applied, you know, if you've started the process really early, you've got a birthday, maybe some holidays, where maybe friends and family traditionally give a gift. Maybe you would ask for a donation towards your study abroad in lieu of gifts. A lot of students make a Fund My Travel website to make it really easy for friends and family to give. The third bullet here under fundraising says put your skills and talents to work like the student. It's a really cute website of a student who was selling cookies, and she called it Bake Me to London, and she was selling cookies online to help fund her study abroad. It's a really cute story. But USAC has been trying to collect stories about how students have made this work. What better way to get some ideas than from hearing students who have actually done it and made it happen. So the QR code there has the USAC blog, and from there you can click on finances and read some stories about how students have made this happen. Oh, and USAC does offer payment plans, so they can work with their student accounting specialist in our accounting department, where instead of having to pay by the balance due deadline or, you know, by departure, they can break up the payments over the course of the time that they're abroad. They do still need to have everything paid by the time the program ends, but that can help. So some more tips here. make a budget, especially make your wish list of things that you want to do while you're abroad that cost money, and try and set a budget for those. Especially if you are on a really limited budget, then maybe make a priority list of things where you do want to splurge, and then things maybe you'll skip as a way to save. There's of course a lot of great resources out there for comparing flights. USAC does offer a group flight through a company called Frosh, and they are a travel agent that would be assisting students if flights are canceled, if you lose your bags, things like that. You would also be traveling with a lot of students that are on your program, which can be really nice. Students are not obligated to participate in group flight. They can get their own flight as long as they arrive to the program site on time. Checking with your bank is a really great thing to be doing in advance. Figure out what kind of fees they would be charging, and just know in advance how much you'll be spending each time you do something like take out cash, or if they charge just international fees each time you have a transaction. So getting to the bottom of that early would be really helpful, because I don't think this happens very often, but a student may want to change their where they keep their bank account. If there is by comparing different companies or banks, figure out which one is going to have the fewest fees. And if you weren't aware, a lot of banks do allow you to order local currency. So if you were going to Europe, you could order some euros, so that when you arrive, you can make some quick purchases, especially if you forgot something like a toothbrush, you can go and get one easily. And then, a really great thing to be thinking about in advance is, thinking about the local travel, public transit, eating out versus cooking, just sort of trying to get a better grasp on, for your program site, what is going to be the most economical thing for things like travel and dining. And during the pre-departure process, my understanding is that a lot of the program materials available in Gateway are going to be giving some advice on things like this. Of course, when students arrive to the program site, the resident director is going to have a lot of this intel as well. As students participating at a host university, they're going to have a local student ID, which is going to help. A lot of places, a bus pass or entry to a museum, or a lot of local activities are going to be discounted for students. So that's another great way to save money. And then of course, it's probably a good idea to practice the conversion from the US dollar to the local currency, just so that you're not fumbling when you're digging through the cash trying to figure out what that conversion is and how much money you're actually spending, what's going to actually show up in your bank account. So this is my last slide here. If you're a student that hasn't gotten to the point of submitting an application and you're still not quite sure where you want to go, but you want to start, exploring our website, we have you can see here again, it's kind of blurry, but if you're very focused on pursuing courses specific to your major, you can search for, you can say, I want to study biology during the fall. We have a pretty handy search tool, so you can start doing some of your own exploring, see where you can go, when you can go. If you are set on a country, then find that country on our website and start looking through the costs, the courses, and what the local area is like. Those are the, cost, location, and courses are really the top 3 things you want to be looking at. When you are ready to start asking questions, we have a general email address, studyabroad@usac.edu. You can email that and you can make an appointment with an enrollment specialist if you're really ready to start asking questions, learning more about a program site. And when you're ready to apply, it's at the top of our website, and it's a purple box, and go from there. So I am ready to answer questions if you're ready to send them. And thank you for your time. Oh, I can't hear you, Chuck. Still can't hear you. Should I still can't hear you. Can anybody else hear Chuck? Okay, well, I will open the chat and read some of the questions. Okay, they can't hear you either. Should I not share my screen? Maybe that would help. Okay. No, I can't. And now I can't see you, Chuck. Oh, there you are. Okay, well, I will, let's see, let's look at some of these questions here. For programs where we can stay in the university abroad. Okay, you already answered that. Is there an age limit, and do you fund for language schools? We don't have an age limit. We are typically, and this is just for USAC applications, there's no age limit for a scholarship for sure. But the qualification for applying to a USAC program is that you are currently pursuing a degree at a college or university. Age doesn't matter. And we do still often have students that will apply as community members, and there may just be some additional screening. But certainly there are times where it makes perfect sense to have a community member not pursuing a degree on one of our programs, but no age limit.
Can folks hear me now?
Yes.
Cool. Sorry about that technical difficulty. The one thing I would add on the age limit is there is an age minimum. You do need to be an adult, so older than 18, in order to be able to study abroad on any of our programs. And so there's not a limit, but there is a minimum.
Thank you. Yes, you have to be an adult. We ask you to sign a lot of legal documents.
Okay.
Okay.
So next question. Did you get the first one, which is for programs where we can stay at the university abroad at the dorms? Do you get access to a dining pass? And the answer to that would be, it depends on the program and how it's set up, and it depends on like the housing option that you take and pick. For example, a lot of students choose like the homestay option, which is an awesome option. And a lot of our homestays include a certain amount of meals with that. Sometimes it's like 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches a week. Sometimes it's a different kind of combination of that, or dinners. And so it really does depend on the location. But luckily, we do spell all that out very clearly on each one of our program pages when you're looking at housing options. And then also, as you're going through the application process, you're going to get a lot of great and helpful resources within our gateway portal that students utilize to, get us all the information that we need. And some of that info that comes to you via that portal is information on housing options, and any meal plans or in-country dining and grocery considerations that you might need to consider. Another good thing is that these are also captured within our interactive budget sheets, where you can really, kind of price out what those costs would be. So I hope that answers your question. Next one for you, Jillian, is for USAC scholarships. When do we find out if we are selected?
So the application, as an example for summer, the application has been open for a few months now, and we are reviewing them and processing them, but we are not making any decisions until we have a full batch of applications. So that means that we are not actually going to get started on reviewing applications until a week after. And it does take a couple of weeks. Our goal is for decisions to be out before the end of March, so that students can know how much they're receiving in advance of the USAC balance due deadline. So I would say within 3 to 4 weeks is our goal for decisions to be released on scholarships for each of the cycles.
Alrighty. Question popped into the chat regarding eligibility while not being a student. And so to be eligible to study abroad with USAC, you do need to be a student that is full-time enrolled at a university. And so if you're not enrolled full-time at a university, then that would be something you would need to do in order to be able to study abroad with USAC.
And I had made the comment earlier about us sometimes being open to community members. And so I would just suggest to Lisa to email the studyabroad@usac.edu. The admissions specialists are the ones that monitor that email account and could give you some advice on your particular case.
What other questions do folks have out there? Well, if there are no further questions, I want to say thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm very happy to see that we got quite a good crowd interested in how to finance their study abroad experience with USAC. And then I also want to thank Jillian. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise in this area. And everyone have a great and wonderful day, and we'll see you at the next one.
All right. Thanks, everybody.